right, everybody. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my second live cast, and again, I apologize for the snafu with the other link. And yes, you will be able to see this later, Catherine, because it will be it will just be in my YouTube feed as a regular video. So anyway, so welcome, yay! So today, what I wanted to talk to you guys about was this weaving class that I took this past weekend. It was pretty awesome. I took a class. It was through the Triangle Weavers Guild, and it was a weekend-long intensive, and it was learning. It was a basic class. It was called Over and Under, and it was taught by Leslie. Oh gosh, I'm going to slay her last name. Anyway, it was a wonderful class, and Leslie is with the fiber art community in Yadkin, North Carolina, and so she comes down to the Triangle Weavers Guild. She's a member, and she teaches this class, and it was terrific. It was the basics on how to just weave, warp and weave on a traditional 4-shaft loom. And that's something actually I've never done. I mean, all the weaving that I've done, I've really just done with rigid Heddle and just little simple looms. So I really wanted to learn how to do that because, and I'm going to share with you, I know you guys have seen me talk about this before, but I am going to try and do this without spilling water all over my desk. See, I have my table loom. Ooh. Can you see it right there? This is a table loom that I found on Craigslist, and I hate to say it, but I found it like 10 years ago. So I've had it for this long. You can see, and actually I was able to bring it in, and my teacher looked at this loom, and this part right here, the beater was warped, and so right now I have it lashed down, and I'm gonna see if I can get that the bend out of this thing, and if not, I might have to see if a woodworker can recreate that for me, or see how much that would be to recreate that. Anyway, so I've had this forever, and I just I was really intimidated about how to warp it. So that's why I took the class. Mainly is because I knew I had this loom and I wanted to learn how to work this loom. I had taken I'm going to turn my camera back here. Okay. I had taken the Sayori class, and Sayori is really great, and gosh, I really love those looms, but I really feel like I can do the same kind of stuff on this kind of loom as well. So I mean, the thing about Sayori is that they're really easy to warp, because the whole inside comes out and you can set it on the table, and they have a lot of innovations that make it a lot easier to warp. And the machines are beautiful. There's lots of little innovations that just make things really, really easy and really nice. They're great little looms. And they're designed to free you up from that process, so you can just concentrate on doing this freeform kind of weaving, and it's very similar to the kind of weaving that I do on my videos with the art yarn and stuff like that. So, but I think that there's a way that I can do that on this loom. So I wanted to figure out how to warp this loom. That's why I took that class. So let me show you what I made. All right. So basically what she did is, well, we learned how to warp the loom. Like on the first day we started warping that loom, which is awesome. If that's the only thing I learned from the class, then I was there to do what I needed to do, which was great. We used, now the yarn that we used, the difference between the yarns is we used this dragon tail. Here's part of a sample part that I did. And this is a rayon yarn, and it's the dragon tail yarns from Earth Guild in Asheville. But a lot of the yarns, you know, it's the stuff that comes on the cones. Do I have any right here? No, I don't really have. Wait. No, I don't have any of that kind of cone yarn. Anyway, so the stuff they use is thinner. I mean, it's almost like a lace weight yarn. It's pretty thin. And the rayon, I tell you, when I first got it on the loom, I didn't love the texture of it. But once I finished the stuff, and I'll show you that it finishes wonderfully. So we learned how to warp the loom, and then we got, she gave us some draft patterns, and we practiced it just with the motions of weaving on the loom. There's a lot involved, using the treadles and you just get into a different kind of rhythm because there's a lot more repetition in these patterns, and you're following. Let me see if I can find. We're really close to the fire department. You can hear this, and I'm going to try and keep this relatively short because it looks like it's going to storm, and I have a feeling we're going to lose connection. But let me see if I can find one of the books. Oh, structures and weaving. Nope. Oh, for harness weaving. Okay, so like what she basically showed us was, you know, you get these draft patterns. Oh, and watch me have pulled a book that didn't have any of these in there. Let's see if I can find that. Maybe not. All right. Anyway, she gave us a drafted pattern, and we followed the drafted pattern, and wove, and we did that for all, you know, half a day on Friday. Well, half a day on Friday we were warping the loom, and we were dressing the loom through Saturday afternoon, and then Saturday afternoon and all day Sunday we just wove, and we made scarves. And so here's my scarf. It's the Rayon Scarf, and you can see the drape is really awesome. I mean, this is a lot stiffer. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, this is a lot stiffer, and this is just really soft and drapey. And it's just really wonderful. Now, when I pulled the scarf off the loom, it was like this, and I was thinking, that's not great. But, you know, it's kind of like with the sari silk yarn, that once you steam it and once you wash it, it just softens up so much, and it just becomes a whole nother fabric. And it's the same with this rayon. I mean, basically it's almost like you're taking the sizing out of the yarn once you get it woven, and it blooms and it all comes together. So anyway, you can see that I practiced some of those patterns, and basically this ended up being just a like one large sample. Now, most of my classmates, and there was only 5 of us, most of my classmates ended up doing, you know, one pattern for their entire scarf, and maybe changed the color a little bit on the ends. But I found myself, it feels like I was weaving this kind of in the same way that I do this. I mean, you can see how it's similar with the textures and the colors, and that's the same feeling I was going for here. So anyway, so that I thought was really, really cool. Now, one thing that I liked is, like I said, I wanted to learn how to do the different method of warping, just because, you know, for my rigid heddle I use a peg warping system, and I'll put a link down below of the video where I demonstrate doing that. And that's really great for rigid heddle. It's really easy. You can get warped really quickly. I tried one time to do a traditional warping where you do all the warp strings on a warping board and try and take it off and put it one at a time onto the loom, and it was a hot mess. It was horrible, and I just never went back to it. Well, we were learning that method, and I had somebody there to teach me the little idiosyncrasies that you have to pay attention to so you don't have this tangled mess of very long strings that you know, are trying to get onto this loom. So that was awesome. But it's another thing that she taught, which I thought was really cool, was that it's And I always thought, with a loom that to get this kind of, fancy weaving, that you had to have a loom like this. And she was all about not feeling that you had to have that expensive equipment to make good work. That good weaving is really about having good structure in your cloth through the tension and paying attention to the details of what makes good weaving, and that's not necessarily the loom. And she even showed us how she does some kind of like a tie version of weaving that uses some just a big long stick, and the warp strings between the stick, almost like a big bow, and then you have something that separates the strings, and then you just weave with a needle through that, and that's just like a little kind of band weaving. So it's all relative. It's all weaving, and that's kind of how I feel about the rigid Heddle loom. I really, even though I know how to do this loom now, I don't think I'll ever give up that little rigid Heddle loom. That samplet loom is just perfect. It's a perfect portable loom. It's a perfect loom when I really want to do something super creative, that I can have that warped in 30 minutes and go with it. So anyway, that I thought was really, I really liked that. I really liked that idea, because there's so many different ways to do looms and to build cloth. And there was some discussion in our Fiber Art Collective about looms, and some of us started sharing, that there were ways to build a loom out of a wooden picture frame and nails, and there you have like a frame loom. So the possibilities are pretty endless, and it's just paying attention to the details of what makes good cloth, and that has to do with like proper tension with your warp, having good tension on your warp as it relates to the weft that you're weaving, and just details in how you treat your edges and your finishing and stuff like that. So anyway, yay, thank you, Connie. I'm really proud of my scarf, so I'm excited to start some new ones too. And I do have some of that dragon tail yarn, as well as a bunch of other mill-end yarns, because I've been collecting them. That's what I ply with for spinning. So now I have, that material. Also, I found some cone yarns at the thrift store here. There's a place called the Scrap Exchange in Durham, and they have cone yarns there. And some of them are pretty thin, but I could see myself, getting some more of those. Well, once I get through I have an obscene amount of cone yarn stash. Anyway, so I wanted to also kind of share with you guys how I feel like I'm going to translate this kind of weaving into what I'm doing, because while I love doing this, a part of me wants to take some of these methods and apply it to, this type of stuff that I'm doing. And I could see ways that I could do that. What if the warp, instead of being, the same material for both the warp and the weft, what if the warp was a hand spun with just a little bit of texture? And then you're going to have, that woolly texture playing off the texture of like a silk or a rayon, and if I incorporate some of these patterns, like the twill, or they have some of these Zig Zaggy patterns. Wait, let me show you. My favorite was this one. Let me see if you can see it. Let me see if there's a better oh, this one. Yeah. So I get this right. Yeah, this right here. This one. That was my favorite. It's like a long zigzag. It has a so it has a little short zig and a longer zag, and a short zig and a longer zag. So I could see doing some of that with a little bit of the hand spun, or even having maybe, some big textures and then some more fine weaving in there. It's just, to me, this is just going to be another texture that I can add to this weaving. So I'm excited to play with that. So we'll see where that goes. And it's just another, have been wanting to use this tool. And so once I get this part fixed, now what I am going to do, because I don't know how long it'll be for this, for me to get this this beater bar straightened out. So what I might end up doing is going ahead and warping this loom, just so I won't forget the details of how to do that, and then just let the loom be warped while I wait for this to be fixed. I mean, I guess there are ways. I know that that Jazz Turtle Esther has a way where she incorporates a art yarn warp on her Sayori, and she makes heddles with these big rings, like a shower curtain ring or a big key ring type of thing, and then when you use that, you can't use your beater bar. So I think what she ends up doing is using like a comb or what do you call those weaving tools? I should know this. Where that just kind of combs those fibers into place. So we'll see. See how I get to play. So that's what I did. That's the weaving. That's why I wasn't able to go live on Sunday, because I was still doing that class, and it was pretty awesome. And that's another thing. Okay, so and I don't know if I mentioned this. It was with the Triangle Weavers Guild, and they're based. They have I think their meetings are in Chapel Hill, and they have it on their website. I think it's triangleweavers.org, maybe. I'll put a link down below. I'll have to look it up. But they meet monthly in Chapel Hill, except for in the summer and in December. In December, they just changed the date, so it won't be at Christmas. And then they have a resource, so a couple of rooms in this building in Durham, in Durham, kind of between Chapel Hill and Durham, and they have all this equipment and resources and library of fiber art books, and you can rent that equipment. So that was, I mean, it was really awesome to find that resource, and it's only $40 a year, I think, and I'm pretty excited about it. So I haven't joined yet. Definitely want to, and I'm excited to go to those meetings and go check it out. And they have workshops all the time. They have classes. So check out your local Weavers Guild. I mean, you guys probably already have. But I know it's different with every guild. I know the ones in Asheville didn't have resources like this. But I know there was one in Atlanta that used to come to Stitches that was really active and pretty awesome. So yeah, check it out. All right, we've got another question. Catherine Rainey. So you're talking about experimenting with the drafted patterns on a rigid heddle with chunkier yarns. That would be really cool. Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's the only thing with the rigid heddle is that I would have to learn how to use the pickup stick. And I know there's YouTube videos, and every time I watch it, I think I have it, and then I get really confused. And there's a book, and I'll see if I can find a reference of that, and if so, I'll post a picture of it on my website or put a link to it down below. It might be out of print. There was a book that I had found that talked about rigid heddle drafting patterns with pickup sticks. I think I might have that book. I think I have that book. I have an obscene amount of books, as you can see. So anyway, but I'll find it and I'll put it down below. But yeah, it involves, but you can do it with a pickup stick on the rigid heddle loom. So I'm going to explore that. And just take what I learned. And it's pretty awesome. But so that's about it. It's going to be kind of short today, sorry. Well, that, and it's getting ready to storm, so I have a feeling that the connection's going to be iffy. The connection's been iffy the last day anyway. I think it just needs that we need to reset our modem or something. So anyway, are there any other questions? I know there's like a minute or two lag, so I'll give it a minute or two to see if anybody else has any other questions. Otherwise, just post them in the comments. I usually haunt the comments at least, you know, for the next day after I record, and sometimes I'll check back, you know, every couple of days to see if there's comments, and if not, put it in the Fiber Art Collective group. And if you're not a member of the Fiber Art Collective Facebook group, I'll put a link down there below too. Come and join us. There's some people doing some really awesome stuff in there. It's really inspiring. Anyway, but if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'll be back next Sunday. I think next Sunday I'm going to talk about how I'm incorporating my ceramic stuff into my weaving and show off some of my plans. Hopefully some of my stuff will be out of the kiln by then and I can share that with you. So anyway, all right, thanks for joining, and I'll put those links down below, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye now.